Over the next few minutes, I'm gonna tell you exactly what my team and I look for in the business acquisition deals that we do as part of the private equity company that we've been building from scratch over the last few months. Now, the thing is, if you go into a business acquisition and you do not stick to your terms that you're looking for, then anything could look like a deal. And the guarantee that you give yourself if you do not stick to what you're trying to when you make these acquisitions is that you're gonna make a bad deal and you're gonna ultimately not be able to get the returns that you need to get as either a fund manager or even if you're just buying one business. So in this video, I want you to pay attention to the things that we look for, see what parts are right for your plan, what parts you would tweak, and what things you might be able to take away for your next business acquisition. To tell you a little bit about how we learn these things, one of my partners in the fund has been doing closed syndications of deals since 2017, so for the last almost 8 years. Now, the thing is, over all of these different deals, he's actually participated in over 500 deals. So he's learned the ins and outs of what is and is not a good deal, which ones get good returns, and ultimately just how to properly structure a deal for the best success afterwards. So I'm gonna share with you the 5 things that we look for to guarantee that we are getting a good deal that can actually fit into our larger plan overall. Now, the first thing that we look for actually has to do with demand. So the demand of the business. We look for whether or not they're capturing or creating demand. Now, if you're familiar with the basic principles of supply and demand, all businesses are built off of having good demand. Demand simply means, are there customers looking for it? Let's use the example of a plumbing company for a second. So if you were the owner of a plumbing company and you were going out, you were trying to generate business, the demand that you're looking for simply means, are there people that need to have their plumbing issues fixed? And if there are, then you have demand that you can service for a price and make money. Very, very simple principles. Now within business, what we've noticed is there are really 2 different types of businesses. There are ones who benefit from capturing demand and ones who benefit from creating demand. Now, we look for businesses that are capturing demand. And a general principle that you'll see me go over and over again is really a very simple check that you can do with all 5 of these that I'm gonna go over, which is simply, does this allow you to play the game on easy mode, or would it be playing the game on hard mode? And all I mean is when you're trying to grow a business, you do not want to set yourself up for failure later. You want to set yourself up for success so that when you go to actually grow the company and get the returns for your investors or for yourself, depending on how you're structuring these deals, you're playing the game on easy mode. So you'll see me reference this easy mode check again and again. We do not want to play the game on hard mode. So when we look at capturing demand versus creating demand, let's go back to the plumbing example. With a plumbing company, people, when they have plumbing issues that they need to fix, simply have no choice but to fix them. If your apartment is flooding, you have to call in someone to fix it or else you're absolutely screwed. So you literally have no choice. This means that the plumber is benefiting from capturing existing demand. They don't have to go out there and generate interest and convince people that their problem needs solving. When you have a plumbing issue, you know you have a problem very quickly, very clearly, and you know you have to solve it. Businesses that work on creating demand, this might be something like a very complex consulting type of business where many people that you work with don't even know that they have a problem in the first place, and you have to do a lot of work to actually show them that they have a problem. You have to create that problem awareness. Now, it takes a lot of work, and again, that is just playing the game on hard mode. When we're getting into these new businesses, we don't want to play the game on hard mode. We want businesses that are capturing demand where it's very clear cut and they're going to have customers no matter what. Now, the next thing that we look for actually also has to do with whether this business can withstand market conditions. We look for something called recession resistance. We look for businesses that have resistance if we were to go into some kind of recession. Because the reality is, some people are able to spot trends, things like that, We've got experience overseeing different market conditions, but no one can ever truly predict what's going to happen with the market. So when we set out on a plan like creating a private equity company where we're going to be holding some of these companies for at least a few years before selling them, we don't know whether in 1, 2, 3 years, whether there's going to be a big change to the market and things could fluctuate a lot. So we're looking for companies that are resistant to that possible recession, so that if the worst does happen, our companies are still growing and still getting good returns. And I'll return to that example of a plumbing company for a moment here. If the market absolutely crashes and things are tough, things are difficult, and your apartment floods, you still have to call a plumber out. You do not have a choice. You as the customer are a captive customer. They're still capturing your demand. So because they have that resistance to any kind of market condition, they have recession resistance. So we're looking, honestly, when we're looking at these businesses, we're looking for pretty much the most boring, everyday types of businesses, things that have been around since the 1800s or even longer, things that are never going out of business because they're always going to be needed. Recession resistance is so key because you cannot predict the market, and if things go sour, you do not want to be screwed. Now, the fourth thing that we look for actually has to do with how the deal can potentially be structured. This has a lot to do with the openness of the person who's going to be selling the business to specific terms. And we have kind of a checkbox of different terms that we're looking for. So here's a few of the things that actually have to be part of the deal. These are, again, the terms of the deal. So a few things that we need to have in these deals that we do is that there must be an element of something called seller financing. There must be at least some seller financing in the deal. If you're not familiar with seller financing, I have other videos where I go more in depth, but I'll explain it simply like this. If you've got a business that's going to sell for $1 million, right, $1 million purchase price, you could pay all cash $1 million up front as the buyer, or you could do something like seller financing, where let's say half or $500K of the business is actually put down as cash, right? So there's a cash component, but then the rest of it, the other $500K, maybe is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 payments, right, of $100K a year. The thing that this does is this makes it easier for us to maintain a good return on our money, because when we buy this business, it's going to be creating cash flow every year, and the cash flow of that business can actually go towards paying those installments of money. Now, the equity that we get from investors or capital we already have saved ourselves, depending on how we're structuring this, could go towards that cash payment, and then the business can partially pay for itself as we go, and this just allows us to get a better return. So openness to seller financing is something that must be present in the deal. They simply just must be open to it, unless they're willing to sell it at an incredible discount, which usually people don't want to do and we don't encourage them to do, and it's not our goal. The next thing that we look for as far as the terms is holding equity. So when these people sell their business to us, they must be willing to hold at least 10% of the equity, 10% or more. So again, back to this example of $1 million purchase price of a business. Let's say they were selling their business for $1 million. They must be willing to hold 10% of that throughout the course of our deal together, the entire time that we plan on holding the business. And this is simply because this creates insurance for us and for them. And what this might look like is that, you know, our purchase price is actually $900,000, and we're buying only 90% of the business. So when the business has profit, 10% goes to the owner, still 90% goes to us. That's kind of how this would work. But here's the importance of this. A couple things. One, insurance for us. So insurance for buyer. So the insurance for us is simply that we know that this business has different contacts. They have customers, they have employees, and the owner has a relationship with all of them. You can never be fully sure how dependent the business is on the relationships with those customers, employees, and any other contacts of the business. So if you completely get rid of the owner, you have no tie-in if things shake up. You might lose customers, you might lose employees, and things might get a little bit sour, and then you start losing some of that cash flow that you bought into the business for in the meantime. So this gives us insurance. The other thing it does is it gives insurance to the seller. So if anything goes wrong with the deal from our end, they know that they still have part of the company. They can come in and influence things potentially, make sure that everything stays on track, and that they get that element of seller financing that we structured in for them over time. They've got skin in the game, in other words. And what we really like is we like to see that there's some continued skin in the game from the person selling the business so that it's got a higher likelihood of success. When we go talk to investors, if we have investors that are giving us money to make these kinds of purchases, they like seeing this skin in the game too, because there's that 5 to 10 years plus of experience or more behind this that owner brings to the table, that they can continue to bring us some kind of consultant without having to spend all their time in the business. The other thing is that as we go through our plan, eventually we will be selling these businesses for a much bigger multiple collectively than this person could get on their own. So that 10% that they keep or more, 10, 20, 30%. And actually in many cases, I've seen deals where people have sold a large portion of their business, and even as soon as a year later, that minority position that they held on to is actually worth more than what they sold the big portion for in the first place, because of what we've been able to do with it and the returns we've been able to get by selling it as a package with other businesses. So this is insurance for the seller as well to actually maximize the sale of their business. Now, the last thing that we look for is simply what I call low-hanging fruit. Right? And this is a really cliche term, but all that low-hanging fruit means to us is that when we look at a business, there are very, very simple things that if we were running the business, we would be doing, that the current owner is not doing, that we've seen from experience owning our own businesses, buying and selling our own businesses, and consulting and managing all types of businesses over the years, that we've seen will definitely help grow this business and get better returns. If we look at them and we see that they are completely getting all their customers through word of mouth, doing no marketing whatsoever, we know that if we bring our Google Ads specialist in, they can blow up this business and increase it a lot just by doing one simple thing that the owner's not doing. This is a low-hanging fruit. And when we're in the game of getting returns for either ourselves or our investors with these deals that we do, we have to look for these low-hanging fruit, because this just pads our security. This is hedges against risk, the risk of market fluctuation, all that, the risk of the business not having the best year the next year after we acquire it. We know that we can bring in very simple tweaks to get higher returns. And in many cases, we might even over deliver on the return that we were looking for if we can do these simple little things. So we're looking for things that would be very easy for us to do with very little effort or very little money, that would make very big impact on the business that they're not already doing. Now, as we look back through all 5 of these, I want to go back to the easy check here. This is the check to make sure that these things would help us actually run the business. So when we look at demand, if you're capturing demand, if the business is capturing demand versus having to create it, that passes the easy check. If they've had success over time, 5 to 10 years or more, that's a predictor that their past success will lead to future success. That makes it easy to run and get returns on. If they are recession resistant, if they will do well even if the market fluctuates and has issues, that passes the easy check. That's easy to run and get returns on. If they're open to seller financing that allows us to more easily purchase the business while having it pay for itself over time, at least some good element of seller financing, passes the easy check, makes it easy for us. If they're willing to hold equity, makes it easy for us. If they have low-hanging fruit of things that they're not already doing in their own business that we could very easily do with minimal effort or money and get maximal returns, that passes the easy check. And ultimately, that is a business that we would want to acquire. We're looking for it to meet all 5 of these categories in order for it to be a good deal. And if you really stick to those 5, then you will be very narrow in your scope. Not every deal that you look at will be a fit. Maybe only 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 will actually be a fit. But the more deals you look at, the more you'll spot these patterns. And when you do find something that's an absolute winner like this and you do purchase it, you will get fantastic returns for yourself or for your investors. Now, I hope this has been helpful. This is just a simple breakdown of the 5 key things that we look for in a business acquisition deal to know whether or not it's an actually good deal for us, for our investors, for what we're trying to do, and for what our plan is. Now, if this has been helpful, if this has got you interested in learning more about what we're doing with the fund, if you'd like to potentially come in as a limited partner, or if you'd like to come in and help with the fund, or if you'd like to potentially get acquired and be part of this plan and you think you meet these criteria, hit the link in the description, go check out our website, fill out a form, and I'll talk to you soon, and I'll see you on the next one.